The stars had always seemed so far away to humanity, like distant beacons too bright to touch. But for the Galactic Council, Earth's place in the universe had grown increasingly hard to ignore. Once a minor, isolated speck on the outskirts of known space, Earth had quietly developed a technological prowess that far exceeded expectations. And now this backwater planet was gaining attention, not for its accomplishments, but because it was becoming dangerous. In the shadowy halls of the Galactic Council, hundreds of representatives from a dozen species sat in a tense silence. The Council had gathered for an emergency session, a convocation spurred by growing concern over Earth's growing potential. The debate was loud, urgent, and often heated. The human race, still in the early stages of exploring the stars, had recently developed advanced weaponry and spaceships far beyond their time. They were building things the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries: autonomous warships, quantum-level encryption devices, and weapons that could disrupt entire star systems. The Council was divided. Some species, those who had encountered humanity directly, argued for a policy of engagement. "They are not like us," said Ardor, the representative from the reptilian Zalrak species. "Their species has a history of violence, of territorial conquest. They are an unpredictable variable that could destabilize everything we've built." Others, however, saw a different threat. The Vithrians, a species of telepathic, energy-absorbing beings, had watched humanity for centuries with a mix of fascination and concern. "Humanity is too volatile," their representative, Carr, stated with a nervous quiver in his voice. "We have seen species like them before, species who rise to dominance too quickly, with no understanding of restraint. They do not follow our rules, and that is a danger." But there were those who were less certain of the Council's position. On the opposite side of the room, a smaller faction of more open-minded species argued that humanity's potential for growth should not be feared. Erix, a bright young diplomat from the Lumo, a species known for their mastery of diplomacy, stood and said, "The humans' rapid technological development is a testament to their drive and adaptability. Yes, they are reckless at times, but they are also survivors. We could learn much from them." However, the majority of the Council was focused on one thing: control. In the cold void of space, maintaining peace was everything. And if a species like humanity, capable of such rapid innovation and unchecked aggression, was left unchecked, it could unravel everything the Council had worked to create over millennia. After hours of debate, the motion passed with overwhelming support. A decision was made. Earth would be isolated. Access to advanced technologies would be cut off, and trade routes would be sealed. Earth would remain cut off from the greater galactic community until it could be proven that they were no longer a threat to interstellar stability. The decision was final. The Council had spoken. Back on Earth, the news of the sanctions came swiftly. The media spread it like wildfire: an embargo, an isolation, and a declaration from the most powerful interstellar body in existence that humanity was too dangerous to be trusted. In Washington, in Moscow, and in Beijing, leaders scrambled for answers, but none would come in time. Far below, deep in an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, an emergency meeting was convened. A group of military leaders and scientists gathered, silently watching a grainy transmission from the Galactic Council. The moment the broadcast ended, a tense silence fell. "What now?" General James Hawthorne asked. "We prepare," said Dr. Elizabeth Turner, the leading strategist in human military technology. "We show them that we're not going to be passive. If the galaxy wants a war, they'll get one." The first strike against the Council had been set in motion. and Earth was ready to send its message to the stars. The night sky above Earth flickered with the soft hum of satellites, unaware that the very forces they once monitored were about to become a threat to the galaxy. In the mountains beneath, hidden from public view, the planning was underway. General Hawthorne and Dr. Turner stood before a team of engineers, military tacticians, and cyber specialists, all working in unison. The message from the Galactic Council had been received, loud and clear. Humanity was to be restrained, but Earth would not sit idle. "We don't have their technology," Hawthorne said, his voice low but resolute. "But what we do have is ingenuity, and a lot of it. We'll make them regret this." Dr. Turner stepped forward, a series of complex holographic displays lighting up the room. "We've reverse-engineered enough alien tech to build something the Council hasn't seen before. We've been working on it for years, under the radar. Now's the time to deploy." On the other side of the world, Earth's secret fleets began to move. A series of covert ships, built from scavenged alien designs and enhanced with Earth's own brutal, innovative engineering, prepared to launch from their hidden launch sites. A mix of custom-built warships, self-replicating drones, and electromagnetic weapons that could cripple entire fleets. The mission was clear: strike first, hit hard, and make it impossible for the Council to underestimate humanity ever again. At 300 hours, the first phase of the plan went into action. A human-made fleet, invisible to traditional galactic sensors due to its advanced stealth technology, approached the outskirts of Council-controlled space. Their first target was a convoy of Vithrian trade ships, a vital supply line for the Galactic Council. The humans had done their homework. They knew where the weak points were. The Vithrians, notoriously overconfident in their telepathic abilities, had failed to account for the unforeseen. Earth's brilliance for adapting under pressure. The first human strike was swift, surgical. Small, autonomous drone swarms launched from the fleet, their algorithms calculating each move with precision. The drones, powered by cutting-edge quantum processors, could adapt on the fly, hacking and disabling the alien ships, before their crews even realized what was happening. The Vithrians' telepathic defenses were disrupted in seconds as the drones emitted an electromagnetic pulse that scrambled their communication systems. The trade convoy, helpless and blind, was decimated within minutes, ships breaking apart in silent explosions. The message had been sent. The second phase followed close behind. Earth's warships, fully equipped with hybrid human-foreign technology, broke into full engagement mode. Each ship was a masterpiece of human adaptability, combining advanced kinetic weaponry with devastating energy shields. The Council, accustomed to dealing with species that fought according to predictable patterns, was caught off guard. Earth's fleets didn't follow rules. They attacked from angles that made no sense, using tactics that seemed more chaotic than coordinated. It wasn't strategy, it was survival, pure, unfiltered, and deadly. On the edge of Council space, a galactic communications relay station went dark. Earth had targeted it next. The loss of the station meant that entire fleets, including key members of the Council, would be unable to communicate with each other, their strategic cohesion shattered. To the Council, it was a devastating blow. To Earth, it was a reminder that no one could predict what humans were capable of. By the time the Council's fleets began to mobilize in retaliation, the damage was done. The story of Earth's ferocity spread like wildfire across galactic channels. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted, accusing each other of underestimating the humans. They had struck in ways no one expected, and now there were no simple solutions. General Hawthorne stood in the operations room of Earth's main command center, staring at the holographic map of the galactic quadrant. "We've only just begun," he muttered. The humans had made their move, and now the galaxy would have to reckon with their power. The first strike had been a success. The stakes were clear. Earth was no longer a minor player in the galaxy. It was a force to be reckoned with, and humanity wasn't about to back down. The Galactic Council was in turmoil. News of Earth's devastating first strike spread like wildfire across the stars, and the galaxy's most powerful species scrambled to respond. The Council had underestimated humanity, assuming that its primitive nature and limited reach made it inconsequential in the grand scheme of galactic politics. But now that assumption had been shattered in the most violent way possible. In the Council chambers, on the homeworld of the Ezari, a planet orbiting a distant red giant, representatives from the most influential species gathered. The faces of the species were grim, their once confident expressions now clouded with disbelief and anger. The Vithrians, the most directly impacted by the attack, were in an uproar. Asterisk, how could this happen? Kar, the telepathic representative of the Vithrians, demanded, his voice echoing with a mixture of rage and fear. "We've watched them for centuries, studied their every move. Their technology wasn't even close to ours. How did they bypass our defenses so easily?" A tense silence fell over the room. Finally, it was Ardor, the leader of the Zalrak, a race of massive, armor-plated creatures who had been the first to call for Earth's isolation, who spoke. His deep, gravelly voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans are unpredictable. We saw their violent history and assumed they would always remain contained. Clearly, we were wrong. This is war." But as angry as they were, there was still confusion. The Council had always relied on overwhelming force, on the certainty of advanced technology and strategy. Earth, with its nascent military might, had torn through their defenses as though they were made of paper. The first attack was only the beginning. The Galactic Council had to respond, but how? In the war rooms of the Council's military headquarters, senior commanders pored over data from the initial strike. Earth's attack had not been one single blow, but a calculated series of coordinated actions, each one more unexpected than the last. They had attacked not just the convoy, but critical communication hubs, supply routes, and even bypassed entire fleets. Humanity's strategies seemed chaotic, but that was precisely what made them so effective. Their strategy is unconventional, General Zoroth, the commander of the Skilor fleet, observed. His species was known for its highly disciplined military tactics, and he couldn't fathom why the humans fought the way they did. It's not what we expect. They adapt on the fly, constantly changing their approach. They fight like they have nothing to lose. "You're correct," said Kilera, a young intelligence officer from the Girian race. "They don't fight with the same rules that we do. They're unpredictable, emotional, driven by a survival instinct that's unlike anything we've encountered. Their strength is in their raw tenacity. They don't need to follow our playbook. They make their own." The commanders shared uneasy glances. They had prepared for war, but not for this. Earth's strike had been a clear message. They were no longer the quiet, insignificant species they once were. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Hawthorne stood in the command center, watching the latest reports come in. The first strike had achieved its goal. Planetary communication across several key sectors had been severed. Several fleets had been left crippled or stranded. However, the response was already underway. The Council wasn't a fractured group of disparate species. They were an organized, unified force. Earth's victory had been momentary, and there was no mistaking that a counterattack would come swiftly. "They'll retaliate," And it won't be pretty, Dr. Turner said, her voice low as she stood beside the general. But this is what we've been preparing for. We don't win by matching their tactics. We win by keeping them guessing. Hawthorne nodded grimly. They've underestimated us before. Let's make sure they never forget what happens when you push humanity into a corner. The Council's military response was being marshalled even as they argued in their war rooms. A massive armada was being assembled, a mix of ships from the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy. Their first target would be Earth's largest military base, deep within the solar system. The Council was coming, and their retribution would be swift, precise, and overwhelming. But what the Council didn't know, what they hadn't anticipated, was that humanity, for all its faults, was built on one unshakable truth: survival. And as the coming storm of alien fleets approached, Earth was ready to prove just how deadly survival could be. The Council's response came quicker than anticipated. Within hours of the first strike, vast armadas from the SRE, Zolrak, and Vithrian fleets were already en route to Earth, poised to enact vengeance for the humiliation inflicted upon them. The message was clear: Earth would be brought to heel. And yet, as the Council's war machines prepared to engage, something unexpected happened, something no one had anticipated. In a remote high-security data center on the planet Crixion, a group of galactic historians and archaeologists had been working on a quiet project. Unbeknownst to most, they had been studying humanity's history, not just as a species, but as a subject of interest. Their work was part of a long-term initiative to understand the origins of Earth's violent tendencies. A deep dive into the planet's genetic history and early extraterrestrial interactions had revealed something unsettling. Humanity's aggressive nature might not have been entirely their own doing. Dr. Raltar, a Zolrak historian, known for her dispassionate approach to galactic history, was the first to uncover the evidence. Late one evening, while reviewing an encrypted archive of ancient human texts and records, she stumbled upon a series of encrypted files buried deep within the Council's own databases, files that had been hidden for centuries. They contained reports from an ancient time, when humanity's ancestors had been subjected to manipulation and genetic experimentation by early, now forgotten extraterrestrial visitors. These visitors had not come in peace, they had come to shape Earth's inhabitants. Dr. Raltar scanned through the files, her eyes widening in disbelief. It became clear that several of the early human civilizations, including the Sumerians and the Egyptians, had interacted with species far more advanced than themselves, species that had purposefully fostered violence, war, and division within humanity. Earth's violent history, the endless wars and conflicts that had ravaged its surface for millennia, were not simply the result of a primitive species struggling to evolve. They were the result of outside influence, manipulation by species that saw Earth as little more than a laboratory. It wasn't just genetic modification. The ancient texts also suggested that certain alien species had deliberately altered humanity's emotional responses to stress, aggression, and fear. These changes had been subtle at first, small tweaks to the brain's emotional centers, adjustments to hormonal balances, but over generations they had bred a species that was quick to anger, quick to fight, and quick to dominate. It was a pattern that had become deeply ingrained in human culture. Dr. Raltar immediately sent her findings to the Council's central database, but there was little reaction. The truth about humanity's manipulation was inconvenient, too controversial to explore, too dangerous to confront. Instead, the data was ignored, buried beneath layers of political red tape. But a handful of Council members began to whisper about it. The implications were staggering. Could it be that humanity, this species they had written off as primitive, was not entirely responsible for the chaos they had caused? Could their violent tendencies have been nurtured by other galactic powers long ago? As the war escalated, this discovery began to spread among the Council's factions. Some, like the sympathetic Skilor, began to see humanity's aggression in a new light. Perhaps, they reasoned, Earth's violence was not a flaw of nature. It was the result of centuries of manipulation. What if the Council's initial judgment of humanity was deeply flawed? Meanwhile, back on Earth, General Hawthorne sat in a command center, monitoring the incoming alien fleets. As the intelligence reports came in, he was briefed on the latest discovery from Criction. His face remained grim as he read through the findings. It was a truth he had suspected for years, though he had never fully understood its depth. Earth's violent history had always seemed too convenient, too perfectly engineered to be entirely accidental. Now the pieces were falling into place. "We've been played," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else in the room. Dr. Turner, standing beside him, nodded slowly. "It explains a lot. But now we know this isn't just about us anymore. If the Council understands what's happened, if they realize how deeply we've been manipulated, they might start questioning everything." "They'll question it all right," Hawthorne replied, a hard edge to his voice. "But we're already too far gone. And the galaxy is going to find out that humanity fights when it's backed into a corner. If we're going down, we'll make sure the rest of the galaxy knows the truth about what they did to us." The first shots had been fired, but now Earth was fighting not just for survival, but for its very identity. The galactic powers may have thought they were dealing with a primitive species, but they were wrong. Humanity wasn't just fighting for their place in the stars. They were fighting to uncover the hidden truth of their past and to reclaim their future. The news from Criction sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council, but it was already too late to undo the damage. Humanity's initial strike had left a mark no one could ignore, and now the revelation that Earth's violent tendencies were not entirely self-inflicted added a layer of complexity to the conflict that no one had anticipated. For some, this newfound information about Earth's genetic manipulation only deepened the resolve to suppress the planet, to ensure it remained isolated from the galactic community. But for others, it raised uncomfortable questions. What if humanity wasn't inherently dangerous? What if they had been engineered to be this way? And if that were true, who was responsible, and who was going to answer for it? As the war between Earth and the Galactic Council raged on, a small but growing faction within the Council began to question their leadership's stance. The Skilor, once known for their unyielding loyalty to the Council's cause, had been among the first to voice their concern. Their representative, Velar, had long advocated for a more diplomatic approach to humanity. But now, with the discovery of the manipulation of Earth's genetic history, his stance had only grown more urgent. "We cannot continue this war without first understanding the full implications of our actions," Velar argued during a council meeting. Humanity's aggression may not have been entirely their fault. If they were engineered to be this way, we must consider the possibility that they are a victim, not an aggressor. His words were met with silence. The Asari, the Vithrians, and its Selrek representatives exchanged uneasy glances. The idea that humanity was not solely responsible for its violent nature was a hard pill to swallow. The Council had spent centuries keeping galactic peace by maintaining a delicate balance of power, and now that balance was threatened by a truth that many would rather ignore. But Velar was not alone. A handful of other races, including the Trillon, an insectoid species known for their strategic minds, began to voice their support for the Skilor's position. They too had studied humanity and seeing the same patterns of external influence. While they acknowledged humanity's violent history, they began to ask asterisk, what if humanity was being punished for something beyond their control? We were not the only ones who interacted with early humans, Velor continued. Other races, older than even our own, were responsible for their manipulation. Some of them are still out there, hiding in the shadows, possibly watching this conflict unfold. If we continue to escalate the war, we risk injuring forces far greater than ourselves. But the Council's hardline factions, those who had advocated for Earth's isolation from the start, were unwilling to relent. We cannot allow this knowledge to cloud our judgment, said Ardor, that Salnak representative. His voice was heavy with suspicion. Whatever their origins, Earth's actions are their own. They are a threat, and they must be neutralized. Despite the growing division within the Council, the decision was made. Earth would be hit harder than ever before. An invasion force of unprecedented size and strength was dispatched, an armada that would not only target Earth's military installations, but its very cities. The Council intended to break humanity, to send a message not only to Earth, but to the entire galaxy. Resistance against the Council would be crushed. But just as the invasion fleets were preparing to depart, something unexpected happened. Word leaked. The Skilor, Trillon, and other sympathizers within the Council could no longer remain silent. They had seen the destruction humanity could cause, but they had also seen the potential for humanity to evolve, to grow, to contribute to the galaxy in ways no one had yet considered. And they feared that by wiping out Earth, they would do far more harm than good. In the dark, beneath the scrutiny of the Council's leadership, these sympathetic factions made a daring decision. They would help Earth, but they would do so in secret. They would provide Earth with the technology and intelligence it needed to prepare for the Council's impending invasion, just enough to tip the scales in humanity's favor. The betrayal was massive. It was not just an act of defiance, it was a declaration that the Council, in its pursuit of power and control, had overstepped. The Skilor, Trillon, and others began feeding Earth vital information about the Council's military strategies, troop movements, and fleet deployments. They also began to send Earth clandestine supplies, advanced weapons systems, stealth technology, and even subtle medical innovations that would enhance human resilience. At the same time, Earth's leaders, who had once been on the defensive, began to form new alliances. General Hawthorne, already battle-hardened and aware of the magnitude of the war they were about to face, was determined to use this newfound information to their advantage. "We don't just fight for our survival anymore," he said, staring at the maps of enemy fleets projected on the walls of the command center. "We fight for the truth, and we fight for the chance to define our own future." The betrayal within the Council would have far-reaching consequences. The skirmishes in space would intensify, and the divide within the Council would widen, as those who supported humanity's right to fight for itself now faced an uphill battle against the war-hungry factions. But one thing was clear: the war was no longer just about retaliation. It was about something deeper, about humanity's place in the galaxy and the hidden forces that had shaped its past. And Earth wasn't about to let anyone, alien or otherwise, decide its fate for it. The betrayal within the Galactic Council had shifted the course of the war. While the Council's most aggressive factions continued their march toward Earth, a coalition of sympathetic races, including the Skilor and Trillon, had begun feeding Earth critical intelligence, intel that was already starting to reshake the battlefield. But the question remained: could humanity truly fight back against an alliance of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations? In Earth's underground command centers, General Hawthorne and Dr. Turner worked around the clock, analyzing the information provided by their new allies. The Council's armada was massive, but the intelligence that had been shared was more than just tactical. It was a map of weaknesses, a window into the inner workings of the enemy fleet and the weaknesses in their technology. "Here," Dr. Turner said, her voice tinged with exhaustion but fueled by determination. She pointed to a holographic display of the Council's fleet, zooming in on a series of battleships clustered near the outer rim of Earth's solar system. These ships are powered by an energy source we've never encountered. If we can disable their power cores, we'll cripple half their fleet before they even reach Earth. "But we don't have the firepower to make a direct hit," Hawthorne replied, analyzing the data. "We need to get inside their perimeter, maybe even aboard one of their ships to disable their systems from within." "We have a window," Dr. Turner said. "A small one. The Vithrians are highly telepathic, and their ships are vulnerable to quantum interference. If we can disrupt their psychic networks, we can leave their crews disoriented. That might buy us just enough time to get close." It was risky, but Earth had no choice. They had to take the fight to the Council, or risk being wiped out before they could fully mobilize. Across the solar system, Earth's space fleets were quietly assembling, hidden in asteroid belts, behind moons, and within deep space bunkers. The advanced warships that had once seemed like a mere dream were now ready for their maiden voyage, ships built with a mix of human innovation and alien technology. For the first time, humanity was not just a participant in this galactic conflict. They were becoming its aggressors. Earth's strategy was simple: hit fast, hit hard, and above all, make it personal. Every battle plan was designed to ensure that the Council would never see Earth as an afterthought again. As the invasion fleets drew closer, the first wave of Earth's ships launched. A dozen sleek warships, their surfaces glinting with a mix of human and alien technology, slid out of their hidden bases in the asteroid field. The first strike would be at the Vithrian battle group, Earth's most immediate target. They were the closest, and Earth's allies had provided enough information to exploit their vulnerabilities. General Hawthorne watched the battle unfold from Earth's command center, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. His face was set in a grim expression as the tactical feed streamed in. The battle had begun. "Disrupt their psychic network," Dr. Turner ordered to the tech team as they began to deploy quantum disruptors. The Vithrian fleets were formidable, but their reliance on psychic communication made them especially vulnerable to interference. As Earth's quantum disruptors fired, a pulse rippled through the Vithrian ships. The enemy fleet faltered, unable to communicate with each other. The window of opportunity had opened. With surgical precision, Earth's warships closed in, weaving through the chaos of the disrupted fleet. The human ships used the confusion to break through the outer lines and get to the heart of the Vithrian battle group. Meanwhile, Earth's drones, autonomous swarms powered by hyper-efficient AA, launched from the main warships, infiltrating the hulls of the disoriented Vithrian ships. One by one, the Vithrian ships fell silent as Earth's elite cyber warfare units disabled their power cores. In moments, entire sections of the Vithrian fleet were left adrift, their engines lifeless, their crews incapacitated. The remaining Vithrian ships, disoriented and uncoordinated, fell into disarray. As Earth's forces moved in to secure the remaining ships, a sense of vindication washed over Hawthorne. The Council had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to strike with an unconventional approach, to capitalize on vulnerabilities. It wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. On the Council's side, however, the response was swift. The remaining fleet commanders, realizing the Vithrians had been crippled, quickly mobilized a counterattack. The Azari and Saurak fleets, though more disciplined, had not yet reached Earth's atmosphere, but their firepower was unrivaled. A large-scale planetary bombardment was imminent. "We've done well so far," Dr. Turner said, her fingers flying over a holographic display. "But we'll need more time before we can stop the Council's main forces. We'll have to hit them where it hurts." "There's no more time," Hawthorne replied. "We need to take the fight to their heart. If we can cripple their command structure, we'll cripple their resolve." As Earth's forces regrouped, the war was no longer just a defensive effort. Humanity was beginning to make its move, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. The stakes had been raised, and the Council would soon find out just how deadly a determined, cornered species could be. The battle over the Vithrian fleet had been a massive success for Earth, but the war was far from over. The Council's retaliation was swift and brutal. The remaining armadas, led by the Asari and Zaurak, were closing in on Earth, intent on ending the conflict before it spiraled further out of control. Earth had made its mark, but now the full weight of the galaxy's military might was bearing down on them. In Earth's underground command center, General Hawthorne stared at the war map projected before him, the incoming waves of Council ships flashing red as they approached Earth's orbit. Their forces were vast, far greater than Earth's newly formed fleets, and they were coming in full force. "We've taken down a big chunk of their fleet," Hawthorne said, his voice low, but the strain was visible in his eyes. "But that was just the first wave. We need to prepare for the real battle now." Dr. Turner stood beside him, her face hard and focused. "Our allies have been helpful, but they've also made it clear. The Skilor and the Trillon can only do so much. The rest of the Council is gearing up for their final push. And that push will be more than just military," Hawthorne said, his fingers tapping the map. "They're going to try to break us psychologically too. They know we're not prepared for the scale of what's coming, but we will be ready." He turned toward the staff working in the command room. "I want all units on high alert, and I want our new weapons systems tested. Now, no more holding back." The plan had been set in motion. Earth's counterattack had caught the Council off guard, but now the next phase of the operation would rely on their most secret weapon, Project Phoenix, a plan that had been in development for years, hidden from even the highest levels of the government. It was a combination of human ingenuity, stolen Council technology, and a few daring ideas from their allies. If it worked, it could turn the tide of the war in humanity's favor. Project Phoenix was designed to disable the entire Council fleet in one fell swoop, by targeting the command ship at the center of their forces. It was a daring strategy, relying on a combination of advanced EMP pulses, quantum hacking devices, and physical infiltration. The mission was clear: take down the heart of the Council's forces, and the rest would fall into chaos. As Earth's fleet moved into position, the skies above the planet darkened. The massive Council armada emerged from the void, dozens of colossal ships flanked by fleets of smaller vessels. They came from every direction, their weapons primed, ready to bombard Earth's surface into submission. "This is it," Hawthorne said, his voice steel-cold as the final preparations were made. "We make our stand now, or we never get another chance." The first volley from the Council fleet hit Earth's outer defences, a burst of energy that sent ripples through the atmosphere. But Earth had anticipated this. The retaliatory shield generators, built from a combination of human technology and stolen alien designs, fled to life, absorbing the incoming fire. The Council's bombardment continued, but Earth's defences held strong. Meanwhile, a smaller group of Earth's warships, using the cover of their own shields, navigated through the chaos, Making their way toward the heart of the Council's armada, the command ship, Harmonicus, a gargantuan vessel at the center of the enemy formation. It was their Achilles heel. The Harmonicus was not only the nerve center for the entire fleet, but also the control point for all of the Council's military assets in the sector. If Earth could disable it, the rest of the enemy ships would be left blind, leaderless, and disorganized. As the Earth ships neared the Harmonicus, Dr. Turner's voice came through the comms. "We've got one shot at this, General. If we fail, we're done." The assault on the Harmonicus was a surgical strike. Earth's ships fired off a series of quantum disruptor missiles, powerful enough to breach the Harmonicus's electromagnetic shielding. But the real key was the boarding party, a team of Earth's elite soldiers and cyber warfare specialists who would infiltrate the ship and bring its command center to its knees from within. They had developed a new type of stealth technology, nearly invisible to the Council's sensors, and they had one mission: disable the command systems. The soldiers, led by Captain Kate Ramirez, moved silently through the vast corridors of the Harmonicus, avoiding detection as they reached the heart of the ship. The tension was palpable. Ramirez's team was made up of veterans who had fought in Earth's desperate defense, and now they were about to strike at the very heart of the Council's military might. Inside the ship, they set to work. The quantum disruptors fired, sending pulses through the Harmonicus Asterisk's core systems, causing power failures and destabilizing its shields. The soldiers worked quickly, planting explosive charges at key control points, while Ramirez hacked into the command network, sending an EMP pulse through the ship's central systems. The Harmonicus trembled as its once impenetrable defenses began to fail. In the command center of the Earth fleet, Hawthorne watched with a sense of grim satisfaction. The battle was shifting. For the first time in the war, it felt as if humanity had the upper hand. But the Council was not done yet. In the deepest chambers of their fleet, leaders whispered of their final options. The war had just entered its most dangerous phase, and for Earth, there was no turning back now. The Harmonicus groaned, its systems failing as Earth's boarding team cut through its neural network, sending the once mighty vessel into chaos. The heart of the Council's military machine was now crippled, and with it, the once unshakable confidence of the Galactic Council began to waver. In Earth's command center, General Hawthorne stood, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the chaos unfold in space. The Harmonicus was on the brink of collapse, and the fleet's command structure had already been fractured. "We've done it," Dr. Turner said, her voice barely a whisper of relief. "We've destabilized their command systems. The rest of their fleets are in disarray." But Hawthorne's expression remained grim. "It's not over yet. They'll retaliate." And he was right. The Council's response came quickly, and it was as brutal as it was desperate. As soon as the Harmonicus's systems began to fail, the remaining Council ships, most of them still under the command of subordinates, now panicking and confused, launched one final, coordinated attack. But instead of targeting Earth's forces directly, they aimed their firepower at Earth itself, hoping to break the planet's spirit before the final blow came. The devastation was near apocalyptic. Orbital bombardments began to strike Earth's surface, massive energy beams cutting through cities, military bases, and infrastructure. The attack was a calculated attempt to force humanity into submission, to break their will to fight by reducing their home to ash. The city of New York was the first to take the full brunt of the bombardment. A beam of pure energy lanced through the atmosphere, disintegrating entire blocks, sending firestorms across the city's skyline. In London, similar beams rained down, vaporizing iconic landmarks and leaving behind nothing but charred earth. It was a brutal reminder that the Council was willing to destroy everything in order to ensure humanity's compliance. On Earth's surface, the pain of the attack was felt everywhere, but it was also met with an unrelenting resolve. The human spirit, often seen as a flaw by the Council, was now Earth's greatest weapon. While the elite forces had successfully disabled the Harmonicus, Earth's remaining fighters, the very people who had been cast aside by the galactic powers, rose up. Across the globe, humanity rallied. A massive counteroffensive was launched against the invading fleets, despite the overwhelming odds. The Council had underestimated the resilience of the human race for the last time. Hawthorne's voice crackled through the comms. "This is Earth's final stand. We've got one shot at this, and it's now or never." With their backs against the wall, Earth's forces launched everything they had left: nuclear-tipped missiles, advanced energy disruptors, and even crude but powerful anti-ship projectiles that were nothing more than repurposed civilian technology. It was a last-ditch effort to make the Council feel what Earth had been feeling all along: fear, desperation, and the brutal cost of underestimating humanity. Then, just as the final assault from the Council ships was about to commence, the unexpected happened. The Skilor, Trillon, and other sympathetic races, having watched the devastation unfold, could no longer sit idly by. They had come to understand the true nature of humanity's struggle, how they had been manipulated, how their history had been shaped by forces far greater than themselves. And now, with the Harmonicus down and the Council's forces scattered, they made a bold move. They turned against the Council. Fleets that had once been sworn to the Council's cause now aligned with Earth. That Saurak ships, once the most powerful of the Council's warships, shifted their fire and began to target their former allies. The Asari's enormous flagship, Eonax, swung around and fired on the remaining Council vessels. It was a betrayal that stunned the galaxy to its core. Within hours, the Council's unity fractured beyond repair. Their fleets, now divided, turned on each other as much as on Earth. The remnants of the once unified military became a war-torn mess of alliances and betrayals, and in the chaos, Earth's forces struck. They used their final missiles, their last energy disruptors, and every last shred of hope to turn the tide. The battle that followed was chaotic, desperate, and violent. Humanity's warships, damaged and battered but determined, fought with a ferocity that made even the most experienced Council commanders hesitate. Earth's forces focused on precision strikes, hitting weak points in the Council's now disorganized fleets, leaving them in ruin. The sheer intensity of their resistance, driven not just by military might, but by a deep-rooted desire to protect their home, became the deciding factor. And then, after hours of relentless combat, the tide turned. The final blow came when Earth's last remaining quantum disruptor struck the Asari flagship. The ship's systems overloaded, causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the remaining fleets. The Council, its forces decimated and broken, finally gave way. Their once proud military was shattered. As the smoke of battle cleared, a quiet reverence fell over Earth's survivors. The Council's invasion had failed. Earth had survived, and in doing so, had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could suppress the will of a species determined to fight for its place in the galaxy. The war was over, but the journey was only just beginning. Earth had not just defended itself. It had shattered the chains that had once bound it to the whims of the galactic elite. The future of the galaxy was now uncertain, and humanity stood at the center of it, ready to reshape its destiny on its own terms.